I was originally looking for my PC handheld of choice way back last year, I was shopping around, looking at the Steam Deck, the Ally, looking at the new Legion Go at the time, and then I found the Anbernic Win600, and I initially thought about going this route because it was cheaper and I didn't necessarily think I would need that much performance, but I would soon realize this is one of the worst values in the Windows gaming handheld space. Truly, this device is a just cavalcade of bad decisions, bad design, bad price, just everything about this was not particularly great. And it's not even good at the lighter task you can do. Just to jump right into this, the Anbernic Win600 has 8GB of RAM with 128 GB of storage with an Athlon 3050E, which is a super low-end processor from at this point 6 or 5 years ago, I believe. And even then it wasn't particularly powerful, but even more so today. We're talking about this thing is about as powerful as an Xbox 360 in terms of graphics performance. You can play games like Skyrim, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, that sort of era of games, Castle Crashers. It's just so many good classic games, yes, but far from what I would even determine as playing old games in my back catalog. And those tend to be from at least the Xbox One generation. So I don't really have very many games I own on PC to begin with from way back in the 360 generation. So to begin with, this wasn't going to be a very good device for PC gaming. Straight up, I highly doubt you would want to play any games on this device. I did do some testing, but it's not great. I mean, you can get games to play, yes, but I wouldn't want to play any game like this. It's generally a pretty bad experience. Even in some games, the FPS isn't great, and it causes weird latency. And there was so many weird graphical things, especially if you just crank the details way down, like in Elden Ring. There creates some shimmering sort of weird brightness to it all. It's strange. And certain games like Resident Evil just did not run very well at all. You can only play them at 720p, all low, resolution scaling set to 0. So it's frankly, it's not worth the effort to try to optimize these PC games to run on this device. And I hoped emulation would be a different story, and it is to a point. And it's not the worst device for emulation, but there's been so many cheaper Windows devices that offer more performance or the same performance at a cheaper price. So currently, just to get this out of the way, it's currently being sold on Anbernic's website for $350. You can get a Steam Deck for that money, which I'm not saying that you should, but it's just when you have that specific of a budget, you are left with very few options for at least that have enough performance, and the Steam Deck is one of the more powerful options in that price bracket. And why would you ever buy this weird Anbernic device? It has a horrible build quality, and I usually praise Anbernic for their great build quality. I'm a big fan of their Anbernic RG351M. It's a beautiful device, small, compact, nice build materials, full aluminum. It's fantastic. Even more recent devices like the Anbernic RG35XX Plus, though it is a mostly plastic build, it feels nice and premium, solid in the hands. This device, the Win600, creaks in an unsettling way. It is so shoddily constructed that I'm afraid if I drop this even once, the thing will split in half. Even problems with the touchscreen when charging. I didn't catch any footage of this specifically, but I found some footage of somebody else having the same issue put on screen now. It's bizarre. It's these weird, really shoddily constructed, parts of this device that really had me disappointed in Anbernic. I think this is the first time I truly thought, wow, this is a really bad device. Even when they first made their foray into Android-based gaming devices with that weird Anbernic device that came out earlier last year, it wasn't even that bad. Like, I loved the design of it. It just, unfortunately, didn't have enough performance. I wish I could say the same for this one. The Win600 is a terrible value, even when it comes to emulation. You see some slowdown in 3DS games, which isn't uncommon, but like still, 3DS emulation at $350 can be done very easily. There's so many devices that can do it. N64 was fine. PS2, unless I spent a lot of time optimizing it, also wouldn't run very well. GameCube and Wii ran fine enough, but you wouldn't be able to play most of the library. You would only be able to play games that are quite easy to run usually, something like Luigi's Mansion, Super Mario Sunshine, and even still in Sunshine I had some slowdown issues. So it's not even that this device is just it's made for like emulation. No, it's not good. And I think what hamstrings it the most is the fact that it has the 3050. The main sort of processor of this, handheld is just bad. It was a bad idea from the start. Even the ergonomics, having the analog sticks both way down at the bottom, made it substantially less comfortable to use. The grips on it are comfortable, and if you're playing mostly 2D games with like the D-pad, it's fine. But the moment you play anything 3D, my hands would start to cramp so much. And I don't have the world's largest hands. So, like, I didn't necessarily have to worry, this wouldn't have been a problem if they weren't so low on the device. It was just so uncomfortable for me. And I would suspect most people finding this, at least for extended play sessions, to be a bad experience. And battery life also horrendous. But now that we've established why I dislike this thing so much, there are just better options. If you want this level of performance and you're okay with what it is, you can go get the Loki Zero. Like, that thing is $250. It has the same processor as this, the 3050E, and it comes in at $100 cheaper. And it kind of makes sense at that price point when you think about it, with the recent announcement of the Ion Neo Next Lite being $300. In terms of performance, it does make sense for this to sort of slot right underneath that at $100, cheaper than the Win600 and $50 cheaper than the Next Lite. So it actually makes a lot of sense for this Loki Zero to be, that has this level of performance and at this price. Though I wish it had more performance, then it would start pushing up against the Next Lite, which different companies, yes, but it would just get destroyed next to that. So it has to be cheaper. And so basically what I'm saying is, those of you who would have considered this device, the Win600, go buy the Loki Zero. It's the same thing, but better build quality, a cheaper price, more features, less likely to be shit, and you probably would get it a lot sooner, if I'm being honest. Shipping was horrible on this Win600 device. I know this video has been a little bit more ranty than some videos in the past, and far more negative, which, it's a given. This device just sucks, and I was so disappointed, and I promptly returned my device. I do not want this thing, 1, cluttering my house, 2, it's just a waste of money, if I'm being honest. I don't ever think I'll ever come back to this device, ever. This device is horrible, and I highly recommend you not buy it. If you want this device sort of level of performance, just go get a Loki Zero, though I still wouldn't recommend that, because if you're looking around the $250 price point, you're probably looking for emulation devices, and there are much better options for emulation devices at that price point. You can get something like the Retro Pocket 4 Pro I made a video about recently. You can go and get something like the, Odin 2, which came out not too long ago, which is $50 more expensive than the Loki, but it also is $50 cheaper than the Win600, offering substantially more performance and allowing you to emulate up to Nintendo Switch, and it's just overall a much better device for emulation. Granted, it is not a Windows device, so it's not necessarily equal in comparison, but honestly, why does any of that matter? If you're just trying to emulate games, it would just be easier in general on Android. Sure, it'd be harder to optimize for some people, but generally speaking, you can sort of set it and forget it, especially on the Odin 2, which I didn't need to do any optimization for. It just worked. Sometimes I had to change the renderer, which honestly wasn't that hard. It was just able to find it in the quick settings for any of the emulators I would use. So what are your thoughts? Are you also a big hater of the Win600? Did you ever buy the Win600? I would love to hear your thoughts, comments, questions, and concerns down below in the comment section. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. All the other social media garbage down below. And last but not least, have a wonderful day.